am so excited to be here this morning to tell you guys a bit about my story and about my life on home parental nutrition. So like I said, my name is Lauren, but you may know me from the Instagram and blogging world as the Pretty Couch Potato. That's where I share some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way being on TPN, and also just the idea behind the name is just remembering that even though we may not feel well every single day, like we're valid in our space, and it's okay to just be a pretty couch potato and like take up that space and be you, and you are totally valid in all of that. So that's my kind of my mission with that. So like I said, I'm a blogger. I also am a photographer, and I'm an advocate for those of us on TPN and tube feeds. I also am not just, my health things. I'm a wife to my husband, Anthony, and a mom to my precious little puppy, Oley, which you'll see later in the slides. I have been on TPN for about the past 13 years. And all of that is due to being diagnosed with chronic intestinal tube obstruction. And so now I'm just gonna hop back to the very beginning of my story and tell you a little bit about how my life has played out. So I was born in 1992 in Perryton, Texas, which is in the panhandle of Texas, in a small town. I was born healthy. There were no signs of any developmental delays or any sort of health issues, and so we thought we were good. My body was good. But when I was about 4 years old, I started having some symptoms of just some little tummy troubles here and there. And like I said, I'm from a small town, and so our doctor resources were pretty limited. But we exhausted our resources pretty quickly, but we tried. And it was kind of funny that most all the doctors came to the same consensus that my whole problem was that I was too obsessed with cheese. So we tried lots of things, a lot of cheese elimination diets, I guess we can call them, but eliminating dairy, eliminating this and that, and seeing, what might work. And nothing really seemed to change, but nothing was super severe at this point. Then from ages 5 to 7, I had several deaths in my family. My grandma passed away, my grandpa passed away, an uncle passed away, and my second grade teacher passed away. It was a lot, and that's a lot for anybody, but my doctors decided that to add to my too much cheese diagnosis was that it was all in my head. So then we had that, and I dealt with that for a long time. And then in 2001, we moved from that small town in the Panhandle to the Dallas area. So guess what? A lot of doctors, so cool. Oh, sorry, surprise. So we established a hospital here, and they were starting to look past the whole "it's in your head, it's all cheese" situation. And so they wanted to see if there was something mechanically going on. So one of the first things they like to do is an endoscopy. So they wanted to get in there and see what my stomach was doing. As a lot of you may know, with tests like endoscopies, when you're getting sedation and things, they ask that you don't eat anything after a certain time in the evening prior to your test, right? Or before your test. So my family had a spaghetti dinner that night around 6 p.m. Before the test. And that next morning at my 7 o'clock endoscopy appointment, the doctor came out during the procedure and asked my parents why they let me eat spaghetti for breakfast that morning. And it's just I just always think that's so funny that it was identifiable as spaghetti that morning. I didn't eat breakfast at 6 a.m. I promise I didn't. So I see that as a point that should have been a big ding, ding, ding moment of there's something going on here. But unfortunately, we didn't really get very far with that. So time went on. This picture is just a picture of me in this time between of just, I tried to live my best life. I had a lot of pain, a lot of vomiting, nausea, all of those symptoms that a lot of us deal with. But then in 2006, I was doing really, really poorly, and I actually ended up at the Children's Hospital in Dallas. And you guys, I just found out this last night, but my pediatric doctor is here this morning, and I can tear up. Okay. And she was a fellow then, and so it's super special to get to see her now. But I was so sorry, guys. In 2006, I was diagnosed with chronic intestinal pseudo-obstruction. And shortly after that, I began TPN. And so at this time, I was in 7th grade, and I was 13 years old. And so I started TPN, and slowly but surely, I was weaning off, just like we all hope to. And for many years, I was down to 3 days a week, which was amazing. And I graduated from high school, and I moved to Oregon for art school. But unfortunately, my body wasn't on the same page. And she wanted to go back home, and she needed some support. So I moved back home, and my doctors, liver numbers are always a thing with TPN life. It affects your livers in ways that we don't quite understand yet. But my doctor asked how I would feel if we tried to see what my body would do without TPN for a little bit. It was going to be a little experiment. Well, unfortunately, I was 20 years old at this point, and of course I wanted to get off TPN. I let it get a little too far, you guys. I tried alternatives and other options that I thought, my goodness, I thought might heal my body. And I couldn't see what you see in this picture right here when I looked in the mirror. I saw myself as so much better because I wasn't on TPN. Thank you so much. Because that's always the ultimate goal, it seems. And that's an amazing goal to have, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. But that's okay. It's really okay. I'm so glad that this therapy exists. So, it took me about 8 months to figure this out, to see myself in the light that everyone else was seeing me. But it took me flying to California for a trip to basically escape all of this. Ending up in the hospital for 2 months. And that's where I started TPN again. I was 20 years old. And they were a little afraid that TPN wasn't gonna take any, they were scared. But I'm so fortunate that it did. And I started gaining my weight back, and I started getting healthier and healthier. And then, so TPN, I'm still on TPN 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. But between that time and now, I had still had a ton of, I never ended up being able to eat by mouth again. I couldn't, there's always the process of clear liquids, liquid diet, soft foods. There's that every single time. I never got past clear liquids without having to get back onto suction. And that was not the process I knew. And so I went home in PO. But unfortunately, your guts still make things. They're not just nothing in there. So I was still having nausea and vomiting, even being in PO all the time. So I ended up getting a G-tube and a J-tube that are used to decompress my stomach. And they have seriously changed my whole life. I am so much more comfortable, and I don't have those symptoms. And even though I've got 3 extra appendages in my body right now, they seriously keep me going and really have changed my life. So that's my story. I've got a few things that I'd love to share that I have learned along the way. So the first thing I've learned is that I can live a full life on nutrition support. And I think that that's one of the scariest things whenever somebody starts, these feeding therapies, that they just feel like you can't do normal people things, but you can. I met and dated my now husband, and we got married in 2016. Oh guys, guess what's coming up? There's Oley! Don't you know? And so we have Oley, and we have our little family. I have friends that I absolutely adore. And I just feel like TPN gives me, all of these things. I can live this life and be totally fulfilled. The biggest thing that Oley has given me is community. Coming to conferences like this and meeting new people and just connecting and having people who get it is huge in making it, like, in this weird world that we have. And so I just want to thank Oley for that so much. And the last thing I'd love to share that I've learned is that you're your own best advocate. My dad has been telling me that I'm my own best advocate since the beginning of time, which is an amazing thing to just always have in my head. It always just rings in there. And I just, some points I had just to remember are to speak up. If you're afraid of something, if you need some additional support, if you just, next thing is asking questions, but that goes in with speaking up and just using your voice because you're important and it's your body, and you just need, if you don't know what's going on, it's scary. And so just remembering that you're a part of the process. It's not just what people are telling you to do. Not saying not to do what people tell you to do, but knowing why you're doing them. And then also, this comes with, with speaking with medical professionals, is that advocating for yourself doesn't mean being mean to anyone or saying no or anything like that. It's just remembering that everyone involved is a human and to be respectful to each other. And I think that's one of the biggest parts of making sure that your care, is the best that it can be. What? Okay, sorry. And then I just wanted to say a big thank you for everyone coming out today. And I've loved sharing my story with you guys. And if you wanted to find me on any of these social links, I've added my Instagram handle there, and my website, and an email address if anybody wants to connect. That's amazing. I love connecting with everyone. And then I'd love to open it up. If anybody had any questions, I'd love to answer anything.
Do you participate in any sports, physical activities? Can you describe that?
Sports.
I am not. Riding a bike, swimming.
Okay. I am not a sporty person at all. But with silver sneakers.
Oh, geez.
No, this is true. I did go to the senior citizen workout class for many years, and I love it. It's actually just enough impact that I was gaining muscle. I wish that the silver sneakers class actually happened a little closer to my home because it was like a 30-minute commute to it. But yeah, I am able to for sure. I would never play football. I don't know how that would work. But I think that there's definitely modifications to make those things possible for people that would like to. Yeah. Yes?
How did you hear about the Oley Foundation?
I remember my mom telling me that there was a website she had found. She was on the internet a lot, looking for stuff. I remember her telling me about the website a while back, but it wasn't until I got involved really in the Facebook community that I really got involved and knew that there were really fun conferences that happened every summer where you with amazing people wearing other backpacks. So it was probably about 5 years ago that I started really following and knowing what you guys were up to. Yeah. Yeah.
Just want to say thank you for what you just shared
Aw.
here in Dallas, Texas, as a patient.
Aw.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you for listening.
My question is, you shared your story about West Texas and the Panhandle, and so I'm in a setting where I work with patients all over Texas.
Uh-huh.
How would you encourage healthcare providers in rural areas to become more informed on the reality of, the GI and home tube feedings, so they can be a little bit more proactive?
That is a
Sorry.
No, that's an amazing question. I actually, so I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas now, and I have similar, it's very much, it's small, it's rural. Yeah, I mean, it's not rural, but it's like, they're not there. And so I still do come to Dallas for my care, and I wish that I could just say, can you guys let me come talk to you? Would you listen to this and see how important this therapy is to a lot of lives, and that it's not, it's not a death sentence. I think that's what that's in my experience is with small town doctors now, is that they are afraid of it. They can't see that it's giving me life. They just see my liver numbers and they say, get off of this. And I'm like, what's the other option, guys? So yeah, that's a great question. Let's talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Have you recorded your story and shared it on Facebook?
So actually, when did I do that? Last summer, I believe. On my blog, it's like an 18-part story. Like I wrote it all out, with all the filled in missing details from this story. Yeah, so it is on my blog, on the Pretty Couch Potato blog. So yeah, in the About Me thing. Yes, Carol. Hi.
I have an idea for you, is that dietitians all study tube feeding and parenteral nutrition. Now, we might not be very good at it, depending on whether we do it, but we're in rural areas, and so if you can contact a dietitian, maybe, they're everywhere, and then they could find somebody in a bigger city and maybe help. So I think the dietitian could be really key here, and I remember when I met Lauren, I was like, oh my gosh, who is this so fun person? And you start following her, but the Panhandle has dietitians, can you believe it? I know it, I went to school out that area. So I think it could be the conduit. We still can't find doctors, I know, but that at least we.
That's a great idea to use.
They're disappearing.
And we do study.
Yeah, that's a good point. Are we good? Oh, are we good? Yeah.
I was just wondering, do you have a local doctor that you see in Fayetteville who will work with your
Yes.
specialists here? Okay.
Thankfully, yes, it took a lot of searching, I actually had, you go through the nurse. So the nurse, I called the doctor's office, the nurse called me back and said, the doctor asked why you moved here. And I was like, what? Because I wanted to? I don't know. Yeah, but yes, I did end up finding a really great
So you
teaching
have
clinic.
Okay,
I think finding teaching clinics was also really helpful.
So you have that regular care close to you,
Yeah.
and then you have the less frequent appointments with a specialist.
Sometimes it's questionable.
Oh, okay, not always less frequent.
Well, they just don't know,
Yeah, that's
it's
the
just
goal.
hard.
Yes.
But yeah,
Okay.
I love coming here for my care. So yeah. Thank you so much, you guys. Oh,
Thank you.
I'll talk to you.
Oh, that's a timer.
Oh, right on time. Thanks,
you, guys.
Lauren. It takes a great person to share this story. Next, please welcome Dr. David Mercer, who is speaking on intestinal rehabilitation and transplantation, working together to change the lives of children and adults with intestinal failure.